Look at this for a second. An infinite carousel animation that feels like Netflix, moving forever. Clean, and see that smooth pause on hover? All built with nothing but HTML and CSS. No JavaScript, no library, no complicated setup. By the end of this responsive HTML CSS project tutorial, you'll know exactly how to build this smooth infinite scroll animation looping effect yourself, step by step, using CSS Grid, Flexbox, and smooth CSS animation. If you've ever seen a Netflix-style row of cards that keeps moving forever, you may have assumed it needs JavaScript or a heavy carousel plugin. It doesn't. In this HTML CSS tutorial, we're building a clean, responsive, infinite carousel animation using only HTML and CSS. And I'm going to break it down in a way that actually makes sense, even if you're still learning front-end development. What makes this coding tutorial worth watching is that we will build this from scratch. We're not just copying code. We're going to understand the structure, the CSS animation trick, the responsive behavior, and the exact logic behind this seamless loop. Before we go further, if you want a better grasp of how professional responsive layouts are planned, I recommend checking my Build Any Responsive Layout guide. It helps you understand the exact kind of layout thinking we're using in this project. Phase 1. Design tokens and base setup. Before we style a single card, let's talk about a habit that separates beginner CSS from professional CSS. Design tokens, also called CSS custom properties or CSS variables. Here's the real-world problem they solve. Imagine you hard-code your card width as 200px in 10 different places across your style sheet. Now your client says, make the cards a bit bigger. You're hunting through the whole file, hoping you didn't miss one. With variables, you change the value once, and everything that depends on it updates automatically. Notice what's happening in those media queries. We're not writing brand new layout code for mobile. We're just redefining the same variables with smaller numbers. Since every other rule in our CSS references these variables instead of hard-coded values, the entire carousel reshapes itself automatically. This is the modern way to handle breakpoints, clean and low maintenance. Now before we build anything visual, we need a quick reset. Browsers ship with default spacing and sizing behavior that will fight against our pixel-precise layout if we don't take control of it first. Box sizing border box is one of those settings you'll add to almost every project for the rest of your career. It just makes width and height behave the way your brain expects them to. Overflow X hidden on the body is important here specifically because our carousel is about to have content sliding outside the visible screen on purpose. We don't want that to create an ugly scroll bar. Phase 2, the viewport and the edge fade trick. Here's a problem you'll hit the moment you build a scrolling row of cards. The edges look abrupt. A card gets sliced in half right at the screen border, and it looks unfinished. Streaming platforms solve this with a fade. The cards near the edge gradually dissolve into the background instead of getting a hard cut. Think of mask image like a stencil laid over your content. Wherever the stencil is black, your content shows through completely. Wherever it's transparent, your content disappears, even though it's technically still there. Since our gradient starts transparent, ramps up to black, and fades back to transparent, we get that clean dissolve on both edges without touching a single pixel of our actual card images. Phase 3, the moving track, setting up the animation engine. Inside the window, we need the element that actually moves. Think of this like a conveyor belt. The cards stay on the track, and the track is what slides across the screen. A quick tip on will change, transform style, and backface visibility. You don't need to memorize what each one does internally. Just remember the pattern. If something's going to animate smoothly and continuously, give it this performance trio. It tells the browser to use your device's graphics card instead of the regular rendering pipeline, which avoids that jittery, stuttery look you sometimes see on cheap CSS animations. Now, why negative 50% and not, say, 100%? That's the actual trick behind the infinite illusion, and it deserves its own section. Phase 4. The infinite loop math. Here's the part most people get wrong. If you only animate one set of cards, the movement ends, resets, and the user sees a jump. That destroys the illusion. The fix is simple once you see it. Duplicate the entire row. Group 1 is your real content. Group 2 is an exact clone placed directly after it. Now here's the trick. When Group 1 finishes sliding off the left edge, Group 2 is sitting in exactly the position Group 1 started in. Because they're pixel identical, the browser can snap the animation back to 0% at that exact moment, and your eye can't tell anything happened. It just looks like it never stopped. This is also the kind of layout logic I go deeper into in my Build Any Responsive Layout guide. So if you want to improve your CSS workflow beyond this carousel, this guide will help a lot. Let's do the actual math, because once it clicks, you'll never forget it. Group 1's total width equals W. Group 2's total width equals W, identical copy. And both groups sitting side by side inside the track equals 2W total width. When we animate, transform, translate 3D negative 50% 0, 0, that percentage is calculated against the track's total width, which is 2W. So negative 50% of 2W is exactly negative 1W. That shifts the track left by precisely one full group's width. Group 1 has fully exited on the left, and Group 2 has slid into the exact starting position. Snap back to 0%, and the loop is seamless. And don't skip that aria-hidden equals true on Group 2. It's one line of code, but it's the difference between an accessible carousel and one that confuses screen reader users by announcing the same 10 movies twice. Phase 5. Building the card. This is the part most beginners get excited about, the actual visual card. We're using article for each card because semantically, each one represents a standalone, independent piece of content. That's exactly what article is designed for. Here's a mental model for position relative that helps it finally click for beginners. Think of it as declaring a coordinate system. The moment you set position relative on .card, you're telling every position absolute child inside it, measure your top, left, right, and bottom against me, not against the whole browser window. That's exactly why our badge lands neatly in the corner instead of pinning itself to the top left corner of the entire page. That white space / overflow / text overflow combo is one of the most reused 3-line patterns in real-world CSS. Bookmark it. Anytime you're dealing with unpredictable text length, movie titles, product names, or usernames, that 3-0 is your safety net. Phase 6, hover, touch safety, and going responsive. Now let's add that satisfying zoom and glow when you hover a card. But here's a mistake a lot of beginners make. They write a hover style and ship it straight to mobile where there's no mouse, only touch. On a touch screen, a top can trigger a hover style and then get stuck in that state until the user tops somewhere else. Awkward. We fix that with a media feature query that checks whether the device actually supports hovering. Notice we're only touching typography and badge sizing here. The layout is already handled automatically because of the CSS variables we set up back in Phase 1. That's the payoff of doing the design token setup properly at the start. Your responsive phase becomes small, boring, and predictable instead of a mess of new rules. Let's recap what you actually built today, because this wasn't just copy this carousel. You now understand 4 concepts you'll reuse in almost every future project. 1. CSS custom properties as a single source of truth for responsive design. 2. CSS masking to create soft, professional edge fades. 3. The duplicate content trick for genuinely seamless infinite animations and the simple percentage math behind it. 4. Hover-safe, accessibility-aware responsive design using @media.hover::hover and prefers reduced motion. If you want to push this further on your own, try swapping the horizontal scroll for a vertical one. Add a second row scrolling the opposite direction for a layered effect. If you want to keep improving your front-end layout skills, use my Build Any Responsive Layout guide as your next step. It will help you turn this kind of tutorial knowledge into a repeatable design process for real projects. The link is in the description. If you want my free CSS cheat sheet, drop cheat sheet in the comments section and I'll send it your way. Full source code is in the description below. If this approach of building things layer by layer instead of just dumping finished code actually helped you, make sure you like this video and subscribe if you want more practical HTML, CSS, JavaScript, responsive web design, CSS animation, and front-end development tutorials like this one. Drop a comment with what you'd want built next, and I'll see you in the next video.